Welcome to Unity Through Diversity. I am your host, Gina Anayana. Unity Through Diversity is a podcast where we acknowledge and celebrate individuals' unique soul gifts through each guest's personal story in order to empower and encourage you to recognize and reclaim the uniqueness in your own soul frequencies. So we, as a collective, can truly embrace unity through diversity in our life. Enjoy the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Unity Through Diversity. And today, welcome back my sister, Whitney Woodcock, back from Egypt, right? Back hot and fresh. You want to say hi just to our audience, and this is your second time on this podcast.
Yes. Hello, Gina. I'm so thrilled to be here and to be here with you all. It was a month, or it's been a month and a half, 2 months since we chatted last. And yes. I'm already feeling so many shifts that I'm really excited to talk about, just where it's like throwing myself into the fire of a trip, which feels very much like an initiation and a quest and like an invitation for more and more growth.
Yes. So I want to give the audience a little bit background because we literally had the podcast probably right before your trip, right? End of August, I remember probably, because your trip was beginning or maybe 10th, 11th of September.
Yeah.
And you were out there for a couple weeks, right? 3 weeks at least?
Yep.
Yes. And I was kind of following along, and we still have messages, a little bit communication, because I know you're all there, and your name will pop into my energy field. And I think one of the posts you post on Instagram, and I already noticed when you come back, is the energy, like the way you share your writings or the messages, downloads is way different from a couple weeks ago before this trip. And I was like, I feel called to reconnect with you because, when we are in those little transformation journey, maybe we're aware, but when other people, they can see these obviously differences. And whatever is different in this 3 weeks of journey, you say the activation or remembering journey, I want to kind of dive into what this really 3 weeks, this Egypt trip or journey, I would say journey, like what that did to you, right? And you are literally leaning into a different reality, different energy, different version of you. So share with us a little bit of this journey, and what is the calling? At what time in your life this calling came in? You're like, yes, right? I don't know what's going on, but I'm going. Pull the trigger, right?
Mm-hmm. So this trip, it went off of a feeling, like a gut intuitive calling inside, being like, you must go to Egypt. Like I felt it was after I had tapped into the Akashic records. And so I was receiving some messages from my higher self and higher guides, where there were past lives in Egypt. And I hadn't done any research with Egypt in the past, but I just had this knowing where I'm like, there's some mystery.
Because we had our Akasha record training.
So I got the first calling of like, must go to Egypt probably around December 20. So this past December 2021.
Okay. Yeah.
And then in my radar, I was like, I don't feel safe as a woman going to Egypt alone. And also I feel like there's so many things I don't know history wise and like lineage and mystery school wise that I don't want to necessarily do the homework on. So I would really love to go with a group, which also I didn't do any other group experiences before that. So for me to be like group experience, I desire this. It was kind of just like all purely gut intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then sure enough, within the next month, I met this one gal who was reading. I really wanted to work with her as a photographer. Turns out she's half Egyptian. She had just come back from Egypt. And she's like, oh, I'm actually running a retreat. And I was kind of like, why is this coming into my field? But I have to lean into it and I have to go for it. Mm-hmm. And I know nothing about this experience. I don't know what to come of this, but I just have to follow my gut and I just have to go. And so fast forward, ended up putting the deposit in, ended up getting ready and So I spent a lot of the summer, um, my mind was like waiting for Egypt. It kind of knew like we're going to go on all these other adventures around the world and around the US, but like ultimately we're preparing you for whatever's going to happen in Egypt.
Yes.
And I'm usually like, I'm a big learner of life and like love going down rabbit holes. But for whatever reason, as I was getting ready for the trip, I would try to learn something about the pyramids, about Egypt, about gods and goddesses. Like I felt like I had to, as a learner, I felt this responsibility, weird societal responsibility of like, you have to be a good student, you have to learn something. And I swear, every time I tried to learn about Egypt, like my spirit guides, source energy, whatever you want to call it, just like unplugged me. And they were like, nope, nope, you're not meant to learn about any of this stuff. So I went to Egypt and I still felt guilty as I was like even flying over on the plane where I was like, I literally don't know anything about these gods and goddesses. I don't know anything about like what the pyramids are actually used for. Like I it feels like all these like normal things that people know about Egypt. And I'm like, I feel like I've just like kind of missed the boat on it.
Yeah, I mean, I had this when I went to visit Sedona 2 years ago. I mean, I heard of Sedona. I had no idea of what is what and what. So when was on my 3 weeks road trip, I thought I was just, jumping here and there, no big deal. And later, I don't do any research, right? But I was okay. That day, I specifically remember when I crossed the border of whatever state with Arizona, some energy shifted. I still don't know what is that. So I stopped at whatever a camping ground. They have swimming pool, whatever thing. And I know the next day I will be in Sedona. And I was like, well, maybe it's perfect time for me to actually Google what this place about. I was literally at the front door, probably 2 or 3 hours away from Sedona, and I was okay. Probably it's the right time for me. Then I kind of Googled this. Oh, okay, cool. I'm already here. But I know the feeling of just like sometimes because a lot of the knowledge there, it might gonna blur our channel of you already have previous impression of certain people, certain thing. If I tell you, my friend Emily, I was just talking to me a time about her. When you see her, you're like, you will not say you will. It's just like unaware. You will match the information from what you already know versus actually the person or the thing you have never ever encountered in your life, right? So sometimes just like movie, we don't tell people what's really happening in the movie because otherwise people is like, oh, what did you told me that the movie gonna go this way? I think they want you to be there to with fresh eye, to experience what is this about. Use your own words and feelings to describe, to feel what is pyramid. Therefore, or right now you come back, you're probably like, oh, I'm glad actually I did not read any of that.
Yeah. And as I was going through the process too, I started to realize like I connected the dots where it's like you don't know why you're not supposed to learn something in the process. And then once you're actually there, it starts getting revealed like, oh, I was supposed to like not know this stuff because actually all the information is handed to me. And it forces me to not be in my intellectual, logical brain already trying to synthesize,
Yes.
but instead it allowed me to drop really deep into presence, really deep into connections, like connecting with the group more,
Yeah.
connecting more with like my spirit guides and with the Akasha.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it felt like I wasn't looking through that lens of like comparing how the outside world and how past history has viewed things, but really being like, curious mind, Whitney's here. How
Mm-hmm.
does she see the world today?
Yeah, and to trust yourself that you know what meant to come to you in a certain way, right? For
Yeah.
your this I say channel or this instrument to receive those informations. It will be different than you read it. Like now I have our conversation. It probably gonna help me to have a better understanding because in the last couple months, ever since we talked about that, I will stumble into some YouTube video about Egypt and then this and that. I think they are preparing me in a different way. Like you want to learn, they won't let you, but they are actually sending me different information, different angle. I don't know why. Normally I don't, but maybe this is more a big deal. They know me that I don't really go too deep of things, but they maybe it's like, oh, this time Gina, you need to do some homework because this is way different too much information for you, if you approach that thing with previous way, it might not gonna be the way you're gonna turn out. So everybody's different. For me, like now, I was like, wow, I tap into even their language. I try to read, what's that called?
The hieroglyphics.
Yes, I was literally, I was like, because in this way, in a short period of time, I probably can understand more things than I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
When I go there, I was, oh yeah, this means that. Actually, I readily print out this couple piece of paper because I don't know what language is it. I did some research and I was, oh, actually not that hard to read it, huh? You just have to understand it. What's the sequence is. So they wanted me to do the homework actually, and I was like, oh, no wonder I'm not there yet. It's because I'm still doing my homework. Whatever. And now I feel like the piece of information I'm looking for, something could help me to put all this information together and tell me a story. That's how interesting a lot of things, your astrology, right? And from different spiritual teachers, they all telling things from one part of array, but what I feel like is they want me to put those right together. There's a general bigger things that they want me to understand, which I don't even know how to describe that. But that's why they want me to do the homework. But I totally get it sometimes, like in Barcelona or other places, I have no idea. I usually was like, Asheville, I never been in Asheville. I didn't do any research. By there, I was like, somebody tell me what's about Asheville. Because I have no idea. And I was, oh, wow, there's so many artists here, so many brewery here. The mountains are beautiful. The trails are beautiful. I was like, wow, that's beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, we're always given. And so like, for whatever reason, you might be given the, like, you must go down these rabbit holes to be able to get to the next level so that you actually like are initiated to Egypt for yourself at the right level.
Yes.
And that's where I've been like, I think like this trip really had me analyzing a little more about like what growth really means to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what growth environments really like quantum leap me, where it's almost like the before Whitney and the after Whitney are just so different.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one of the things for me that I clicked in was around expectations and really going in and like fully surrendering, being like, this trip for Egypt is, I am going to come out as a whole nother woman and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I like trust the group, or like, I didn't know the group. I knew the leader from meeting her twice.
I know.
Yeah.
I know the leader by knowing her twice. That's the trust.
Yeah. And overall, I was like, I trust that whatever experiences I'm given, I'm meant to be given. It was a luxury retreat, so everything else was taken care of. I felt super safe. Like we were in super luxurious spaces. Like I just knew safety was taken care of. And I was like, I know that everything's already been paid for. So like now that I just get ahead of the money and just like feel like, okay, it's already been done. Whatever I'm now here and meant to be able to experience, like take me. Like I'll go wherever you need to take me.
Yeah, I want to back a little bit about talking about your intention, right? Your calling. We touch that part because it's very important. Sometimes we got to know what it is calling, where's the calling from. When the calling gets you, you only can prolong the accepting calling. It will always around you. So we take care of their part. It's very beautiful, and the universe always send people, right? You just happen to know the photographer who's running the retreat. How it even works, right? So when now in the last couple months before the trip, you're preparing, right? Like we mentioned a little bit about doing the research, but also you mentioned that they actually want you to learn to connect when you get there. So, but we all know, like I said, every trip for us or journey for us, that's an intention. I usually select a one word intention. I don't get myself too complicated because later you will not remember what's the long word. So I would like if invite you to share a little bit of your like intention after you put a picture together a little bit. Yeah, I meant to be there. I know there's something going to change. I remember that actually we talked about that. One time after I was driving. Remember that we had this 30 minutes. Driving. I called you and we were talking about it. Well, you will know when you get there. But I was curious about this like intention you set for this journey.
I like that you had just one word because I was like, oh, I had 5 pages of intentions. Wait, like we can get into the details, but overall, well, we're not going to get into the details, but the overall one word for me was connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw a connection that went from connecting to deeper levels of myself. And
Yes.
so that's like an exploration and like unveiling different parts that wanted to come up.
Yeah.
Connecting within the group,
Yeah.
because like I said, I found also part of growth for me is like one-on-one interactions has a space for growth. And then kind of like once I've mastered a skill, or not mastered, but like feel comfortable with the skill, then it's going into the group space. So group connection was another one, and then connection to source and to spirit and to the Akasha was another intention of mine.
Yeah.
So really deeply connection.
Will you go dive a little bit deeper of connecting with yourself? Because I think now when I look back at another conversation I had with you, I think those stories ready to come out, like connect with you, connect with the part of you that you don't even know is there, but it's revealed in front of you. Say, hey, Whitney, we have this part, or you have this part. Hey, have you noticed this part? So tell us a little bit about those deep connection with yourself, within yourself.
So I found for the self connection, okay, I'll use the example of like
Yeah.
not fully knowing why we went to places. So like part of the trip, I'll take it back to like part of the trip experience was it was an initiation and a quest into Kemet, like ancient Egypt and the mysteries and the magic school there.
Mhm.
And so the way that it was structured was we finish at the pyramids because all of the entire trip, like we started further down in Egypt and then made our way up the Nile. So we visited all these different temples along the way to help unlock and prepare ourselves for
12 temples.
there was about 12. Yeah, I forget exactly how
Yeah.
many, but about 12. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So I understand now. I think we are not saying we are not on the same page, but that it's actually matches the study, the homework. Now that's why, hey, if I don't do any homework, I will not be able to talk to you right now, right?
Oh my
So
God. Yeah.
because I did some homework, or they present some homework for me to study, so that I know that it's a Nile River, right?
Yep.
You have different temple, and it's actually like a human
Yep. Yep.
and chakras. So no, I understand. Okay, keep going. So you
Okay.
start from
Perfect.
bottom to up. Yeah.
Yep. So, okay. So I'll just go through a list of some of the places,
Yeah.
so that if any of these hit a bell. So we flew into Cairo, but then right away we flew right down to Abydos.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Luxor, where there's Dendara was one of the temples there, and that was really rooted around Hathor,
Yes.
is the deity,
Yes.
the god and goddess. The name in that for Egyptian is called Neteru. And so we're visiting all these different temples, and each of the temples are basically homes for the different gods and goddesses.
Yes.
And so from Luxor, we went to Karnak. Well, that's in Luxor. Karnak is gorgeous.
Mhm.
It feels so alien-like. It was an experience unlike anything. We went to the Valley of Kings, which is all the tombs. So you start to
Uh-huh.
learn the differences between tombs and temples, and then also the difference between pyramids.
Yes.
Um, and then Edfu, and then we finished our cruise on the Nile. We did a 3-day cruise, and we finished in Aswan, where there was the temple of Isis there. And then from there, we went up to Cairo, where
Yes.
we finished, where we did the pyramid. We went into the Great Pyramid of Giza, and we did a private initiation. So we rented the temple out for 2 hours.
You guys are badass. We'll touch about that initiation, because I think
Yeah.
that's beautiful there.
Yeah. And I'm just running through briefly so you can get a whole visual of like the trip. But the Great Pyramid of Giza is the throat chakra of the world. And so it was 5 to 7 a.m. We had the pyramid rented. It was right at the fall. It was the day before the fall equinox.
Yeah.
And we have a sound activation workshop. And so that was just an experience like no other, where you're just like singing and playing in the sound space of the throat chakra of the world.
So I want to show you something.
Yeah.
I say I did my homework. You maybe cannot really see it, but this is the picture I snapped the screen when I was on Gaia. You probably cannot really see this. This instead of temple, they are actually, let me see, they're sun, different element. So the
Yeah.
12 temples, they have the meaning behind it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But this element is like the lower one: sun, moon, underground, air, water, earth, fire, love, will, wisdom, now and here. And that's what 12. And actually, there's one picture they probably put the temple on it, but I didn't screenshot that one because I was like, oh, I want to know each temple means what. So I can tap into, right, air, water, those four elements, but sun, moon, underground, that's another three. And that 12, like 12 family, you probably know the 12 family as well. So I don't know when I watched this October 6th. I was watching this one on Gaia and from Mattia Stefano. And also the was that you can read this. I literally cannot see it. So all those I was talking about, you read the symbols.
Mm-hmm.
So I print out, I screenshot them, and I'm gonna print out color hieroglyphic.
Hieroglyphics. Yep.
Yes. So I want to learn. That's what I'm talking about. Is that they are sending me some homework. So prepare me. Now we actually, when you share this, I was, oh, I kind of know what you're talking about, instead of like don't know what you're talking about. So this, yes.
So one, well, okay. So after the final thing after the pyramid we did was also the Sphinx. We did the Sphinx at fall equinox, like right in the evening.
Yes.
Beautiful. We got to be like in the Sphinx, like literally in her paws.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, tying into the hieroglyphs,
Uh-huh.
one beautiful thing is they taught us how to read them,
Yeah.
and also teaching that there's so many hidden mysteries where it's like you can translate it quite literally, but also how certain temples were actually like you could tell the style, where even like if one is like for Hathor for Hathor, like you could feel even the style of the hieroglyphs and how the deities and the
Mm-hmm.
gods and goddesses were really created. Like there was more fluidity because it's more of a feminine structure.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of stories that even layer it within the hieroglyphs where you can understand the literal meaning, and then you can also see more of like what they're hinting at as well. So like if certain Neteru, certain gods and goddesses are like facing with their back towards the entrance, it's like that's their palace.
Mm.
And so the exact like the pictures are so beautiful, and how the hieroglyphs were done, like there's so much intentionality to it that it, in my mind and like in all of our minds, it's just like mind blowing with how everything is systematically and it's how it's all organized in stone.
Yeah, so that part, right? So I feel like when you were even sharing that, I saw something that is a remembering for me. If I go back, I would say, because somehow I already have something inside me activated. So when I go there, it's like I will remember the familiarity of that thing. Because otherwise, where does the familiarity come from? But anyway, I want to go back to talk about this activation, sound activation in the pyramid, because like I mentioned a little bit before through our conversation, is I do know that in the back, I don't even know a number, year, whatsoever. But that time, high priestess and priest, they will usually initiate people in the pyramid. They will chanting and singing to match the frequency vibration of whoever is gonna be initiated. So I want to kind of like share that part a little bit of, it's like how's the process for you guys in the period. Of course, it's not going to be same, but just being there to vocal, have your sound go out. Like we have no idea how many people be in that pyramid, and how much information is really there, and what kind of information is holding there, and how it works. Today, I still think it's a mystery, because there are so many different way of people, right, telling you how this pyramid works. But from your personal experience, what that sound activation, later you understand, oh, for me, I feel this way,
Yeah.
instead of how other people, their perspective, right?
So the pyramid was day 10 of our trip. And
Uh-huh.
at this point, like every single temple, every single day of the trip, like every single place we stayed at, every meal we ate, every conversation we had, it was almost like it was a feeling of being satiated, where we would look back at each other and we're like, we're on day 3, we're on day 5. Like, what? There's more? and notice at that point, like obviously we hadn't even been to the temples, but I mean the pyramid, but at that point, even before the temple, everyone in our group agreed that the trip could end and we wouldn't even have to go to the pyramid, and we would be beyond like beyond excited, beyond complete. Like it the pyramid was icing on the cake, but
Mm-hmm.
I had no expectation going into it, and I didn't have a void where I felt like I needed anything to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think for that reason, I just I even when I came into the pyramid, I was just like, or before we arrived, I was like, what's the big mystery about the pyramid? Like, why is everyone so obsessed with it?
Yes.
And so I more so had a curiosity where I'm like, all right, great pyramid, like, show me what you got.
Yes.
And so we go into the morning. So we wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and we did this quite often, but there's actually something so beautiful about really having a ceremony super early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly forgot that it was the throat chakra of the world. And I had a dream for myself that felt really jarring. And I woke up where like the energy felt very much stuck in my throat. And so it was like a part of myself that I wanted to reject. And so for myself, this topic was really around like, it was very much about like sexual identity and sexual reclamation for myself,
Mm-hmm.
which was an area that I feel like as much as like we talk about, like a lot of the world has been very good at being open to be able to talk about these things.
Yeah,
We can be open and accepting of others, but it's a different thing to actually be open, accepting of self.
for sure.
And so for me, it was like, I was feeling this like feeling that I just wanted to like suppress, and I wanted to reject this part of myself,
Mm-hmm.
that I was just like, no, 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 we did not travel to Egypt. We are not, the theme of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, is not about to be about this. Like, I did, I did not travel this far. Like, yo, pyramid, I thought you were going to give me something about my power. Like, and so as I'm like, we're in the bus ride going over to the pyramid, and I'm very bubbly within the group, but like people, I mean, granted, everyone's having their own experience as well, but
Mm-hmm.
I very much like pulled myself away from the group and was just like not wanting to really talk about what was going on in my world.
Yeah.
And so we go into the pyramid, and we have a high priestess, and she's the one who's leading the sound activation for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I connect with her right away, where it's like I see her, she sees me, like she's a star seed, like she's just like one of those, when you get a connection with people, you're just like, oh, I see you.
Yes.
Like, we're going to go on a journey, like you're here to support me on my journey. I feel very safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we're in the pyramid, and I just bring that up because I just like felt this level of safety within myself that I really felt like I could play and I could express on a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me in the pyramid was really like, as we the actual pyramid for me, it was like there's no hieroglyphs in there, so that's the only, like, the all the other temples we were in was like studying things, but the real emphasis in the pyramid is just about the energy that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so we climb up as a group go into the pyramid, we go up. It's a cool climb. I'll just leave it at that. um and you can just like feel the humidity that's just stuck in there, and so you get up into the top room, and in this top room there's nothing on the walls, there's no windows. Obviously it's the pyramid, but in my mind I was like, there's no windows, interesting. And in this room you have a big blank room, basically, like it looks like anyone could go there. It could be anywhere in the world. And then it has a sarcophagus in the middle, which is just like a box where
Yeah.
that fits the size of someone's body.
Yes.
And so we spent the first like hour or so in going through a vocal activation workshop where we're vocal tuning, allowing our voice to go wherever it wants to. And
Mm-hmm.
the really cool thing about like I've done different like chanting and different sound things, but this one felt so different because it felt more like we were casting our voice out, and I was able to feel my voice reverberate back to me. But in return, I was also getting like a visual of different memories for
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt more like we were shuffling through, like my guides or higher up, they were showing me all of these different memories
Mm-hmm.
about myself, and how my story, my fear around what would it mean for myself to be able to claim these like sexual desires or the sexual side of me, like what would this mean. They were actually showing how it doesn't actually mean anything, and instead they were showing me all the rejected, like the different moments that I had rejected versions of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you rejected it, but it doesn't actually mean anything. Like, you rejected it to be able to tuck yourself away and to keep yourself safe until you could express and claim them for yourself.
Yeah.
And now in this moment, your soul feels safe to be able to claim more of yourself and to claim more of your desires. And the more that you claim more of yourself, you're taking like a part of your body, which is now dark. And like you're saying, oh, I can't see some of those desires that I really want.
Yes.
But now you're saying, okay, I can breathe into it and I can turn this darkness to light, and I can actually turn on parts of my body.
And you can see it.
I can see it. More energy can flow there. The world can see it. Like, there's no shame there.
Yeah, it's part of you, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my. That's actually validate the part when opening we were talking about the things you reclaim the things you've been taking away. But not say who take away. It's not you are not feel safe to show. Let's put it that way. So now, like you said, your soul feels safe. So you reclaim the part you cast yourself out. Now you want to bring them back. That was, and then the sacral is all about, your desire and fears, right? And release the guilt and shame, then reclaim that saying that you reject yourself, you cast yourself out. Now you're like, oh, actually, I have a not just have left arm, I have a right arm, and it's beautiful. It's complete. So you
Yeah.
complete yourself. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful.
I, and I find where like that I was able to go into the pyramid, and the beautiful aspect being like that I resisted it, but then I find that a lot of times spirit gives us the message that we need in the ways that we want to receive, that we need to receive it. And it was in such this like loving, soft way where they're like, yes, we see that you can reject this, but really we also want you to see what you're gaining. You're not, if
Mm-hmm.
you reject it, you're rejecting it. But if you accept it, what
Okay.
you're giving yourself is not like, you're not putting yourself in a box by like, oh, I'm like, what, to have more, to be bisexual, you can like put yourself into a box of like, I'm weird, I don't fit in these ways, like
Mm-hmm.
it's not, I'm not accepted. But instead they were like, let's actually reframe that and see it as you're allowing more love into your life. You're allowing more desires to express. You're allowing yourself to express in a way that right now it feels inconvenient, but like let's say there's a woman that like you feel really attracted to, like we're
Mm-hmm.
allowing you to say yes to more of yourself.
Yes. Yes.
and and it doesn't change anything right now, because who you are before you claim it or after it doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me that was a huge part where I was like, oh, like, right, everyone in this group is going to accept me whether I am this today or this in the next 5 minutes, because I'm still Whitney.
They already accept you on the soul level. So
Yeah.
it's our human side of us have this box pre-boxed it. Like we people pre-box people, and maybe we pre-box other people as well. So it's like on the soul level, we are way more open than in the 3D world. Our ego, right? Prefer, choose, has good or bad, right, wrong, either shame or you're proud. But they are part of, right? We when we talk about polarity is when we judge, when we cast things out, when we reject, which means it's bad. Well, sometimes we rejecting something is good too, but depends on who is see it. Well, we sometimes reject something is actually really precious, be part, but things we cast that out doesn't matter. It's good or bad. You feel that part you're not willing to receive. Now it's open. You're like, okay, welcome back. You willing or not, actually, that's probably part of a journey is to discover that deeply that part of you are ready to come back home. and make you more whole. It's not say we are not whole, but that's the tricky part about awareness is like you always can become more. There's no end point expander, right? We're talking about expander. Like now that literally I'm gonna claim some podcast or some video. I look back, I did it with people last year, and I was like, huh, now I have better word to introduce myself now. Just like we try to not box ourselves, but somehow you cannot even put a cannot even tell people who you are anymore. And to the point I'm just totally let it go. Expander, keep expanding, never ending, right? So this is, I think, the part that you deeply connect with yourself. And I think this kind of like vulnerability, you're probably gonna create a deeper connection with the people in the group. Because what if they have similar feelings, but they do not know how to, they still try to tuck away? Not say everybody. What if they want to be claim that they actually the lesbian or gay, not just bi, right? Or people want to switch back because nowadays in the young generation, that's a thing to be, transgender or this and that. A lot of confusion there. To even have our adults to recognize the different side of us is already very empowering and encouraging people to go study a little bit deeper, to understand yourself a little bit deeper, instead of it's good or bad. No, right? Push away. It's like, can I show me a little bit more? Can I lean in a little bit more, but not try to judge ourselves at first place? It's so hard. It's easier said than done. Like, when we going through this, like, oh yeah, it's easy. But when we were in it, how long it took you, how long it took me to admit something that I thought is bad, right? So this is a part of connect with yourself. And let's talk about connect with group, because we were literally sharing with before that we are so used to be this lonely wolf, or right, like we are function very well, because finally for the first time in our life we figure out how we can get along with ourselves, right? Like, not say 100%, but we're pretty good on good term that we can you know get into our own part of the, oh hey, yeah, you don't want to talk about that, okay, well, let's put it there for 5 minutes, we come back, circle back. But we are pretty much in peace with ourselves most time. But the hard part is, even for myself, is also like in a group setting, but also the group that you have no idea where they come from. It's not a group of people you already previously know. Then you're like, oh, I know Gina, I know whoever, right? So the kind of previously you have a little bit feel comfortable, more feel comfortable. Now you throw yourself into how many people in the group?
11 of us.
10? Oh,
11, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, whatever the number is, but large group that you never really know those people, it takes a lot of energy to even maintain the group harmony, because you're not just go out there for 3 days, you go for 3 weeks. So share with us a little bit more the parts that you feel like you recognize, or you're like, oh, actually I'm learning this, and actually I'm better doing certain thing with group of people now. Because you were surprised, right? We sometimes surprise ourselves. Like I said, if you never lean into it, you will never know what are you capable of, and what is your comfort zone, what is this limit. Like, oh, let me push a little bit, lean in a little bit more, right? So share us a little bit more of like on this trip, like your interaction with the group setting, and discover the part that you connect back to this your intention of connect.
Yeah. And the cool thing I find about the group stuff too is it all directly threads back through like the identity and the claiming certain parts of self. Because because like the entire trip I felt like we made this joke within the group, because we all felt like very much like a family. We all, like, all of us felt like we were guided to be on this trip. And also the leader of the trip, her name is Laura. I'll give you even her Instagram, because she's leading this trip again next year. But she very much is walking the priestess path. And so she went through, she did energy work to be able to make sure that the people on the trip were best aligned to it, that they were ready for it, that personality wise, like where people were in their growth process, like they were ready for it. And so we felt like we had gotten there, and we almost were like looking around at each other where we're like, are we part of a movie or like a book or something? Like we feel like there's just like this magic to our group that we can't fully explain. And we know that people always talk about like, oh, group experiences, oh, I created a family. And funny enough, like none of us had gone through group experiences.
My,
So
wow.
yeah, so we were all like lone wolf energy. Granted, this is the first time she's running this trip, so we were all super experimental, being like, I
Mhm.
don't know what we're really, literally 4 days before the trip, someone messaged Lara being like, so what's the intention of this trip? Like none of us had asked. She like gave us a flyer of like to her marketing thing of like showing the places we're gonna go. But um overall, like we all said yes to the unknown and to, hey, we're all here on this journey to figure it out.
Mhm.
So connecting wise within the group, um initially I was like, it was like it's when you walk down for the first day, almost like the first like a school dance where you're like walking downstairs being like, who's here, like are they going to be my friend, is anyone going to want to dance with me type of feeling. um
Are they gonna play
and
with me, right?
yeah, right. And then and I noticed right away one of my fears within the group was, who am I and how do I express to people who I am.
Mhm.
And so right away that fear was right there. And because I was like, this is, I know first impressions matter, and like how I describe myself also related to confidence. Like if I present myself not knowing myself, then what is that going to make people think about me?
Yeah.
And so I noticed this fear, and I like was trying to do a combination of like, how do I share enough of myself and just ask, like, and truly just I'm curious about who's here.
Mhm.
And so the trip very much felt like this, especially at the beginning, it felt like this dance of like, it's a curiosity versus a vulnerability.
Mhm.
And so it's, I very much noticed that like I can go first and lead with vulnerability, and then that gives other people permission slip in the group to also share more with themselves of
Mhm.
themselves, and I can ask more questions. But by me sharing and going first, that's showing like, hey, I trust you guys, like I want to know more about you, and like here's this little bit about me.
Mhm.
And so that was me really saying, I'm going to lead with my open heart, and whoever else wants to match my open heart and like match a aspect of connection, like, please tell me, like, this is just a playground. Like in every conversation, we just get to like architect the conversation.
Yeah. So if you would now look back, what was the hardest part in the group that as a group experience, not just you, because sometimes group will going through the group lesson, not just
Mm.
right. We are in the classroom, but sometimes the class will face some challenges. Initiation. If you think about a family group, those people be together for a couple of weeks. There are certain things for the group, and maybe probably that related to I feel like they are guiding me to eventually we're going to talk about you open the group as Akashic record, and I want to move on to that one after here because they are showing that something is here, then would be that part. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is, yeah, all very much related. Part of our group, okay, so there were two things that we constantly were saying within the group where,
Hmm.
one, it felt like we all held keys for everyone. So like I would hold, so like let's say if Gina, if like if you're working through, or at least one of the things for myself is like a big theme in my trip was like unlocking my power. And so I would like sit down at breakfast, and of course you're like eating breakfast, but then you're like chit-chatting, and before you know it, someone's sharing a story about how they're writing a book and how they went through their process and like what they really unlocked for themselves. And it was like in these little conversations that it's just like, oh, that conversation was actually meant for me to be able to activate a certain power within myself and see that like, oh, I'm actually on this trajectory as well.
Yeah.
And so everyone was a mirror for each other, but they also held keys where we like would have a conversation. You don't know what you unlock within someone, but then they leave and they're like, oh, wow, I feel like I can express, and I feel like I'm more of myself because this happened to me.
Hmm.
And so it almost felt like we could go around places, and um, it almost felt like we didn't have to be in Egypt, but the fact that we were all together was the thing that was most important.
Yeah.
And so the greatest challenge I think was just like there were certain moments where if like one person's energy, we mentioned this before, that like certain people, if there was one person's energy that was off in the group and like someone was going through something, um, it was like, how do we support them and be there for them in a
Hmm.
way that's supportive for them because everyone handles their low points in different ways.
Yes.
So yeah, it was like we're moving as a unit together. So just asking and being and showing just love for others. But yeah, that I think that was just the biggest theme is
Yeah.
a group dynamic.
I want to circle back for the part when we say we have keys for other people, right? Other people have keys for us, and not only on this trip, but I feel like literally in our daily life, just like before this podcast recording, I was sharing that certain time that you have group people gather together, right? And a certain conversation, they just random talking about they're going through. And that time, there's certain words they say, certain messages say is also meant for other people. They have no idea what they say is actually unlock or touch other people's heart, actually give them a roadmap of how they navigate their situation for the people who is navigating, right? So that's definitely, that's why we doing podcasts. It's because now we intentionally created this platform to share our stories. So for the people who later tap into those episodes, they're like, wow, she went through that 3 years ago, or that was what she's working on. She worked on, now I'm working on. Those things that actually the key we hold for each other. Sometimes we don't even know what key we are holding on for who,
Yeah.
at what circumstance is going to come out, right? And that's so beautiful. And also now we're going to talk in a little bit to like, because we are in the Akasha record training, right?
Mhm.
And for you to, obviously we didn't tap into, have not yet touched the part of open records for other people, not saying talking about even for open for the whole group, right? So will you kind of like touch that on for a little bit? Is what is calling like to call you, say, hey Whitney, you're gonna open this record,
Yeah.
for the group, and you're like, okay, cool, right?
So I'm gonna take it back to okay. So for part of the like gift of being in the group, and one thing that I thought that like I was really being trained over the summer when I'm talking about like not like I wasn't doing the like learning about Egypt because guides cut me off that way. They were teaching me more of like the soft skills of really like vulnerability. And so over the summer I was really diving more into how can I be more vulnerable with like in one-on-one interactions and like share more of my heart, because then that was queuing me up to be more vulnerable in group environments.
Yeah.
And so even how you were saying, like with when we hear like someone sharing a story and we're like, oh, that's what they needed. I find that like sometimes we get a key because it's like, okay, that unlocked one door to be able to bring us to the next one.
Mhm.
And I found this very much for the Akasha, where like it was funny. So like you said, we were in the group. We had learned how to open up the Akasha going through our course,
Mhm.
and this was a month before my trip that the course began.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that the Akasha, like the Akashic records live in the ether, and it's like the collection of um the universe's collection of like an encyclopedia. So you go into the library of the universe. Um and I didn't realize that like there would be a specific place on Earth, but if there was, and like if there's theories around it, it's said that it would be under the left paw of the Sphinx as one of the homes. And basically what that means is it's just easier to access the Akashic record there.
Mhm.
And like in our course, we were talking about like your access point is higher. So like you have access to more information, like the information feels clear.
Yeah.
And so being in Egypt, I very much felt that where I personally would be like sitting on the bus in my journal, and I ended up writing basically a whole book within being in Egypt, because I would open up the record when in the mornings to ask, hey, what is the theme for the day? What am I going through?
Mhm.
I would open up the records when I was on the bus or when I was in the temples to be like, hey, Netru, hey, gods and goddesses, like, tell me what message do you want to come through to me?
Mhm.
And then I would open it up in the evenings to be like, what did I learn today? What should I take forward into like the dream state and beyond?
Mhm.
And so opening up the records in and out had me feel more confident about myself. And so that when I share the like one-on-one interactions of growth, I found that because I was able to be more vulnerable and intimate with myself in the record,
Yeah.
there came a time where we were the first day that we got onto the cruise, which we did a 3-day cruise on the Nile.
Mhm.
and I was sharing a room with one of my friends, or new friends, as
Yeah.
you're on like day 5 of the trip.
Yeah.
And we like come into the room on that day, and her name is Phoebe, and Phoebe goes, "Yo, did you like hear the rumor? Did you hear about the Sphinx?" And I was like, "What? You mean that like the Akasha lives under the left paw of the Sphinx?" And she's like, "What? How did you know that?" I was like, "I mean, I've been opening up the record like 3 times a day."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What? You haven't told anyone?" And I was like this that was me, like I'm like, oh no, like this is I'm not trying to attract attention like in a group dynamic. I don't want to brag that like, hey, I've been in the Akasha. Like I don't want people to feel bad that they don't know what the Akasha is, even though I didn't know what it was. Like and so we finished that conversation, then we go up to lunch, and we're sitting at the table, and Phoebe goes, "Yo, did you guys hear what Whitney's been doing? She's been opening up the Akasha 3 times a day." And I was just like, oh, like me, like slowly like hiding in my seat. Yet at the same time, I was like, this is an invitation to grow. Like, allow yourself to be seen, and also
Yeah.
allow yourself to actually talk about the thing that you're so freaking excited about. Like,
Yes.
I had been waiting for that moment to like have an invitation to be like, yes, guys, like I love the Akasha. Let me tell you more. And so from that conversation, we left, and 2 of the girls, I actually taught them how to open up their own Akashic records.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sat down, I gave them like a little run through of like types of questions, how to enter, like the safety mechanisms, just like things to help alleviate their mind and connect with their guides. Which that was a beautiful experience. And then I also asked the group where I was like, hey guys, I've been doing energy updates where I've been like going in the mornings and asking like, what tools do I need?
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys like if I shared this with you?
Mm-hmm.
And of course they were all like, yes, please, like share it in the group, read it out loud, do whatever you want to do.
Uh-huh.
And so that was for me. I felt like in the group, there's so much, one of the potentials is like, if you really lean into like being vulnerable and being in the group, then I also saw it as a tool, a growth tool to be like, they trust me, this is safe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let me share the tool that I've already been working on. And like everyone wants to hear what I've been reading and what I've been picking up on.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So do you guys also, those kind of like, general messages come through. Have you ever encountered that people say, hey, can you just open my record and
Yeah.
show what's coming through? Things like that?
Yeah. So I sat down because this was all the Akasha, since we had just gone through the course, and like um this very much felt like a tool that I was just playing with. Like I felt like I was being initiated into the Akasha.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a moment, I mean, granted, I was hopping into it so often that I felt like there was a moment that my body was like, there's so much information coming in.
Yeah.
So I definitely had a breakdown, but then to understand like really the power that lives in the Akasha.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did have people who wanted to do it, and I said, great, like this is, I'm just playing in this tool. Um, you guys know, like I'm a newbie to this.
Mm-hmm.
I do have enough tools to be able to help us through, so we're going to be safe. This is a space filled with love and protection.
Yeah.
Um, and basically, however far you guys want to play, like we can play, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see whatever comes up. And if something resonates, then great. And if it doesn't, just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were a few people in the group that I opened up the record for in their record. And it was truly such like, it was a beautiful experience where we both just brought so much curiosity to the field,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in the field, we were in the land of magic.
Mm-hmm.
Our group felt very much like we were on like taking magic pills in every single moment. And it just, it gave, it helped like boost people's curious minds to be like, oh, I wondered about this. Like, I can ask more questions about this. Like, oh, I'm having this symbol come in that keeps repeating. What does this symbol mean? And so we could ask about that.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could ask about patterns, or ask like how to transmute things, or show like the highest timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just became this fun playground for more curiosity to really live, and more people to be like, huh, I wonder what else I can call in. What more is in my field?
I have a question. I'm just curious that have you ever after later you open the records for a group and for specific people, have you ever asked a record, it's like, hey, why I'm doing what I'm doing right now? Because it sounds so crazy. Like a month before your trip, we both went on the Akashic record course, right? So now you actually have the tool, lead it to the oral story. But have you ever thought about like ask them, hey guys, why I pick up this tool at that moment in time and for here, what that mean? Where is this carried to, right?
Yeah. I've asked that multiple times. I felt very much that there was like two obsessions that I had in Egypt where I'm like, why am I in Egypt?
Yeah.
And then why am I opening up the record?
Yes.
And honestly, like how you get the messages forward that they want to show you.
Mm-hmm.
I really was getting less answers, and they're just like, can you just? It was a we're not going to give you the answer because we just want you to trust yourself
Mm,
and like trust that you have the capabilities to deliver the messages, because there was a lot of delivering. It's one thing to read your own record, but it's another thing to read someone else's and know that yeah, and that you're delivering a message that is actually supportive to someone.
mm-hmm.
So I definitely had like a lot of imposter syndrome around that when I was starting off, and I'm still starting off, but um I still don't fully know why. I I still they were like, you're here. Even when I opened up the record before the trip, one of the things that came through, because I asked, I was like, there's a reason that the Akasha is here right now. And they were like, your job, the reason you're on this trip and you're here in Egypt is your curiosity. So just stay present, follow your questions, lean into it, and bring your like childlike wonder and play and your presence into it. So sometimes I'm just like, I can get all the answers, but at the same time, I don't think I actually fully wanted to know the answer to that one.
Yeah, I know. I feel leading to this point, I feel like I just hear that there's more to come. You think this is big, like that's so crazy. Like when we think that's it, that's the big thing ever could drop into your life. They're like, hey, Whitney, this is just a starter. You just don't know what it's really leading to. At this point, I can say that because there's more to come. You're not supposed to know because you are just on a journey of the journey. Your Egypt journey just literally kick you start for something even bigger that I don't know, but that's a vibe energy.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
it was funny when we were sitting at the table, so like at that lunch table where Phoebe was like, yo guys, we're also sitting there. So Phoebe has these like random like psychic moments where it's very like very much like a prophecy is coming through.
Yeah.
And so she's sitting at the table and she doesn't even fully remember sometimes when these come through, but we're sitting there and she says something to me like, what I'm getting is if you just keep reading the Akasha, like if you just keep sharing the messages of the Akasha and through others, um, basically like keep on going. Like you're never gonna run out. Like, but also, but not like run out, but it's like you're so supportive and like this is a path for you.
Hmm.
And she's very much like a business gal, like super into things. Where I'm just like, oh, when something comes from Phoebe, like there was just like a frequency where I was like, we don't need to know why, but just keep on trusting this skill.
Yeah.
Um, and trust it. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
That's beautiful. Okay, so we are about, closing this this episode and we have now say final question, but we before we talk about, right, like not everything makes so much sense now. Like you help me to understand what journey really mean for you, but also, through those questions, like you integrate a recap what's it really mean, right? Something you know it, something you don't know it, something you yet to be known, and something you maybe never ever know. Depends on where we're at. So at this, stage of our life, before we talk about that, talking about how to be in service. I know this conversation like a couple days ago, 7, 10 days ago. I just want to tap in one more time to see, where you're at in your life, and I know you are building, creating some of the offering as well. And if you feel comfortable, you can share and kind of like plant seed it, because everything is plant seed. Like even this podcast, even though we are talking about a trip that has already done, but something is just started through that trip, right? Your beautiful connection with yourself, self exploring, right? The part we talk about, and also within the group. Like if Candace did not put you and me together at first place, we will not have those conversations here, and we will not have anything later. We went to the course together, but the course is done, finished. But our journey interaction just started, right? And also with the relationship with Akashic Record, definitely open more. Not say compare than you and me. Like I on the road, I tried to open the record, and somehow it's just I could not open when I was in a loud place, like in the car, even though just me and another person. But because I'm very like, I don't know whether you have this feeling is like you will really know. It's so hard for me to fully clear recognize my own energy when I'm with another being because I'm clear sentence. So like this house right now, I know 100% my own energy field. But especially when I go out, group or somebody around me, even my kids around me, my kids, they are a little bit gentle because they are not so interfered with your own energy field. But I have hard time just be clear knowing this is my own energy because so many things come in. And I try to open the Akashic field, a couple times. I only can access them when I'm like literally really need to be clear, a lot of things to anchor in the space. Versus now at home, I can open it and information comes through very easy because somehow I can. The channel is more clear. When I'm out there, I'm just can't.
Yeah.
So, we talk about, something about your offering and kind of wrap up, right? Things are creating. We are
Yeah.
yet to be maybe have episode 3, episode 4, who knows? But
Yeah.
let's keep going.
Uh, yeah. So one thing that has been really become really strong for myself is how I much really love and also love for others to be able to help break out of the box of like of our labels of society and really live it's like creating our own world, but our own reality in terms of how you can figure out however far you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that just comes from like the meanings that we give things and like actually exploring our mind to be able to like resurface thoughts and then actually understand where they come from and then assign a different meaning to it to allow more of ourselves to come online.
Yes.
And so one of the things that's going to come out soon is I'm doing a podcast myself, which will be like mini 10 to 15-minute episodes
Yay!
around like 5 times a week, to be able to act as like little reprogramming tools so that you can start to see the world through a different lens and see your life and see how you fit in with the life and the different stories that we've created around meaning and how we see the world.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I was thinking, when you say that, because all the video I post, not just the podcast is right conversation with other people. But if you go on my YouTube channel, I already have 160 videos. Those basically my downloads. That's kind of mini podcast. If you could say that could be my mini podcast because that's my downloads, like realizations I call that, but in a video form. But what if I put them as no longer than 15 minutes,
Yeah.
be a daily inspiration dose or whatever, however you call it. That I think that's really cool because podcasts take a long time to you need either you go on road trip driving, right? And you can finish one episode or whatever. But those ones like 15 minutes when people are driving to work or something like that, morning time,
Yeah.
But it's beautiful to hear that, and I know you will have more things to come to share, and for us to kind of fully looking back of this trip to know each no, not that each day, but different parts like connect with yourself, connect with group, connect with Akasha record or whatever big meaning purpose along the way. I think is pretty complete. The different version of you now here, more clear, right? Not say compare, but before and after will be clear where you can take you to. Still don't know where exactly we will be, but it's clear, narrow down a little bit. As, oh, okay, I'm meant to be on this highway or this freeway, however you call it. Um, so thank you so much for coming here again to share, your journey, this beautiful Egypt journey, and also we continually, have this platform open for you to, along the way, share your journey, keep expanding, keep discovering, and keep shining your light, keep breaking, off those boxes or chains and be freer, right? Be more open. So thank you, Whitney. Thank you, sister. And the best way to connect you still through Instagram, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
yes, I will put your link down below when I post this episode. So thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Unity Through Diversity. And I will see you next week. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Unity Through Diversity. I will see you in next episode coming soon. Take care and I love you.